The galaxy was silent. Stars shined coldly across the dark sky. It had been 500 years since the Great Fall, when the tyrant kings, a brutal alien race, crushed the last free civilizations. Now the galaxy lived in fear. No one spoke of the old days. No one dared to dream of hope. But deep in the dark zone, a place abandoned by all, something ancient stirred. A weak, broken signal started to pulse through the darkness. It came from a ship so old its name was almost forgotten. The Dawnbringer. Inside the council hall of the Tyrant Kings, alarms screamed. The High Lords, towering creatures with sharp golden armor, gathered in panic. "What is this?" growled Lord Varthol, slamming his clawed hand on the stone table. "A human signal," answered the Science Keeper, trembling. "It is impossible. Humanity was destroyed centuries ago. Their worlds are dust." Lord Varthol's eyes burned, then explained this. The Science Keeper showed them a hologram. It was the image of a ship, floating dead in space, half buried in asteroid debris. The signal came from there, faint but real. The council murmured. Fear touched their proud faces. Long ago, humanity had almost defeated the Tyrant Kings. They had fought like demons, smart and fearless. It had taken the combined might of 7 alien empires to finally bring them down. After the war, every human was believed to be either dead or frozen forever. Now, after 500 years, a human ship called for help. "What if they wake up?" whispered one of the younger lords. "They must not," hissed Varthol. "Send the death claws. Find the ship. Destroy it." Far away, drifting silently in space, the Dawnbringer floated in darkness. Inside, the lights were dead. The engines were cold. Dust covered every surface. Rows and rows of cryo chambers lined the corridors, frozen coffins of another time. In one of the chambers, a screen flickered. Cryo awakening, 2% complete. Inside the chamber, a man floated in deep sleep. His name, Commander Eric Reyes. His heart, slow and steady, started to beat faster. Meanwhile, the Deathclaw ship arrived near the Dawnbringer. It was a sleek black vessel, armed with plasma cannons. Inside, a small team of alien soldiers prepared to board. Captain Natiroth, leader of the Deathclaws, smiled cruelly. To him, humans were just myths, bedtime stories told to frighten children. He did not fear them. "Prepare to enter," he ordered. The docking arms latched onto the human ship with a loud clang. Doors hissed open. Black-suited aliens stepped into the dark corridors of the Dawnbringer. It was cold. Too cold. Their lights swept over the cryo chambers. Silent faces floated behind the frost-covered glass. "Dead," muttered one soldier. "Break the cores," said Cyroth. "End it quickly." But as they moved deeper into the ship, something strange happened. Their radios crackled. Static filled the air. "Do you hear that?" whispered one. A low, humming sound came from the walls. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. Suddenly, metal doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. Panic flashed across Cyroth's face. "Stay together," he shouted. But it was too late. A shadow moved through the dark. One by one, the Deathclaws began to disappear. No gunfire, no screams, just silence. Cyroth spun around, searching the dark corridors. His heart raced. "Who's there?" he shouted. No answer, only the cold hum of the ancient ship. He raised his plasma gun, aiming wildly. His light flickered, then went out. In the final moment, he saw something. A figure standing tall, wrapped in old human armor, eyes burning like fire. Then everything went black. Inside the command center of the Dawnbringer, Commander Reyes wiped blood from his cheek. He stared at the alien weapons scattered around him. His body ached, but his mind was sharp. He remembered now the war, the final battle, the fall of Earth. He had been frozen with his crew, kept alive for a day when humanity might rise again. And now it was time. Reyes looked at the broken ship around him. Systems were failing. Supplies were low. But humanity's greatest weapon was still alive, his will to fight. He limped toward the main console, rebooting what he could. A rusty screen blinked to life. A message appeared, sent from the past. If you are awake, Earth has fallen. But hope is not lost. Find the heart of Earth. Restore the flame. Ray stared at the message. Earth had fallen. But humanity was not finished. Not yet. Outside the ship, in the blackness of space, more Deathclaw ships approached. Their orders were clear. Destroy the Dawnbringer at all costs. Inside, Commander Reyes stood alone, the first human awake in 500 years. The galaxy had forgotten fear. But fear was coming back. The ship creaked and groaned as small explosions rocked its sides. Commander Reyes gripped the control panel tightly. Warning lights flashed red across the room. More enemy ships were arriving. The Deathclaws were not finished yet. Reyes knew he couldn't fight them alone. Not for long. He staggered through the dark hallways, past broken doors and dead lights. Rows of cryo chambers lined the walls. Inside them, hundreds of his brothers and sisters slept, locked away from time. Reyes opened the control panel near the main cryo bay. Dust flew from the screen. His fingers moved fast, typing commands. The screen blinked. Cryo awakening, 5% complete. He cursed under his breath. Too slow. The system was damaged after centuries in deep space. He needed soldiers now, not later. Outside, enemy ships circled like wolves. They fired warning shots, shaking the Dawnbringer again. The ship's voice, broken and cold, spoke from the speakers. Warning, hull breach detected. Deck 7. Reyes didn't have time. If the aliens got inside again, it was over. He grabbed a plasma rifle from a dead Deathclaw. It was heavier than he liked, but it would do. On Deck 7, the metal walls hissed as boarding pods smashed into them. Deathclaw warriors poured in, their black armor shining in the emergency lights. They moved quickly, searching, hunting. Commander Reyes waited behind a half-broken generator. His breathing slowed. His mind sharpened. He remembered the old training. He remembered the war. He was a soldier of Earth. And Earth's soldiers never surrendered. When the first group passed, Reyes moved like a ghost. He shot the last alien first. Quiet, clean. The others spun around too late. Plasma bolts flew through the air. The narrow hallway turned into a war zone. Reyes used every trick he knew, moving fast, staying low, hitting hard. Within minutes, the Deathclaw team was down. But Reyes was bleeding. A deep cut across his side burned with pain. He tore a strip from his old uniform and tied it around the wound. He didn't have time to feel fear. He needed reinforcements. He sprinted back to the cryo bay. Inside the cryo chamber, Reyes worked faster. Sparks flew from the old machines. Some chambers failed to open. Some humans were lost, their systems too damaged after centuries of sleep. But others began to stir. The first man to wake up was Surgeon Dana Cole, tall, dark-skinned, with sharp eyes. She coughed, weak but alive. "Commander?" she rasped, trying to stand. Reyes grabbed her arm and pulled her up. "We're under attack. I need you." Cole blinked fast, trying to understand. "Attack? Where are we?" "No time. Trust me. Grab a weapon." More pods began to open. One by one, soldiers stumbled out, confused but ready. They were thin, weak, still shaking from the long sleep. But they were human, and they were angry. Cole found an old rifle hanging on the wall. She loaded it with trembling hands, her face hardening with every second. "We'll fight," she said simply. Others nodded, standing behind her. Reyes smiled grimly. Humanity was waking up. Outside the cryo bay, alarms blared louder. More Deathclaw forces stormed the corridors. They moved fast, smelling blood, believing the humans would be easy prey. They were wrong. As the aliens charged the Cryo Bay, Reyes and his squad were waiting. The first wave was torn apart by a rain of plasma fire. Reyes led from the front, his wounded side forgotten. Cole moved like a shadow, picking off targets with deadly aim. Others fought beside them, fueled by rage and instinct. The death claws roared in anger and surprise. This wasn't what they had expected. These humans were not weak. They were not broken. They were warriors. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Blood stained the walls, smoke filled the air. But slowly, inch by inch, the humans pushed the invaders back. In the command center, Ray slammed his fist onto the main console. "Status," he shouted. The broken AI voice responded. "Cryo awakening, 28% complete." Good. More soldiers would join them soon. But bad news followed. Critical damage, engines offline, shields failing. The Dawnbringer was dying. Rice knew they couldn't stay here much longer. They needed a plan. They needed to escape, or they would all die on this floating graveyard. He turned to his small group of survivors. "We need to get to the escape ships," he said. "And we need to find Earth." Cole frowned. "If it's still there." Reyes met her eyes. His voice was steady. "It has to be." As Reyes spoke, far away, across the galaxy, other ancient human colonies picked up the weak signal of the Dawnbringer. Eyes widened, hearts beat faster. The lost children of Earth heard the call. And they began to move. Inside the Dawnbringer, more cryo chambers clicked open. More soldiers awoke. The first human army in 500 years was rising. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But it would learn, very soon. The cryo chambers kept opening, one after another. Commander Reyes stood in the middle of the cryo bay, watching his people wake up. There were not many yet, maybe 100, but they were strong. Their bodies were weak from the long sleep, but their eyes were full of fire. Across the broken ship, old weapons were pulled from dusty lockers. Armor was strapped on, even if it was cracked and worn. These were not fresh soldiers. These were survivors, fighters from another time. And they were ready. Outside, the Death Claw ships grew nervous. They circled the Dawnbringer, but did not attack again. Their leaders watched in silence, sensing the change. This was not a dead ship anymore. It was becoming a fortress. Captain Tyroth, who had barely escaped the first fight, sent a desperate message to his superiors. "The humans are waking up. We need reinforcements immediately." The reply came cold and simple. "Destroy the ship. No survivors." Inside the command center, Reyes worked fast. He connected the old communication system to a hidden satellite link. It was risky. The enemy could trace it. But he had no choice. He needed to send a message. Not just to Earth. To anyone still alive out there. He tapped the microphone. His voice was calm but strong. "To any human colony, to any free soul, this is Commander Eric Reyes of the Dawnbringer. Humanity still lives. Rise up. Fight back. You are not alone." He sent the signal across the stars, repeated every few minutes. It was a small spark. But sometimes one spark can light a fire. Across the galaxy, far from the dark zone, in forgotten corners of space, old human colonies stirred. On the mining world of Carinine, a group of human slaves heard the signal in the deep tunnels. They passed it quietly from ear to ear, their hearts pounding. On the jungle planet Vela, a hidden human village listened in silence as the message played over an ancient radio. Children who had never seen Earth. Elders who barely remembered the old stories. Tears filled their eyes. The humans were coming back. And they were angry. In the dark zone, Reyes and his team prepared for the next battle. They knew the Death Claws would not wait long. Surgeon Cole stood beside Reyes, checking the weapons. "We need a real ship," she said. "This one won't last another fight." Reyes nodded. "The hangar bay. There might be one left." The Dawnbringer was a massive ship. In its golden days, it had carried hundreds of fighters, shuttles, and gunships. Maybe, just maybe, one was still working. But getting to the hangar was not easy. Death claws had taken positions across the ship, blocking the way. "We fight through," Ray said simply. Cole smiled grimly. "Wouldn't have it any other way." The team moved fast through the ruined corridors. Ambush after ambush met them. Death Claw warriors attacked from the shadows, using heavy plasma rifles and energy blades. The humans fought like wolves, smart, ruthless, silent. They used the narrow halls, the broken floors, the damaged systems to their advantage. Traps were set. Grenades were thrown. Hand-to-hand battles were fought in the dark. Step by step, room by room, they pushed forward. Reyes fought at the front, his plasma rifle burning hot. Pain screamed from his wounded side, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Too much was at stake. Finally, after hours of brutal fighting, they reached the hangar doors. They were half closed, jammed by fallen debris. Cole and two others worked fast to clear the way. The doors groaned and hissed open. Inside, in the cold darkness, sat a beauty, an old human gunship, dusty but intact. The Valkyrie. Reyes grinned. "Looks like luck's still on our side." As they rushed to the gunship, alarms suddenly blared across the ship. On the command screens, new red lights appeared. A massive Deathclaw fleet had entered the dark zone. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, all coming for one target: destroy the Dawnbringer. Inside the hangar, Reyes gave quick orders. "Load everyone you can into the Valkyrie. We leave in 10 minutes." Cole nodded and ran off. Reyes stayed back for a moment, looking out of the broken windows of the stars. He thought of Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, the shining cities that might now be dust. He thought of the millions of humans still living under alien rule, waiting for a miracle. He clenched his fist. This was no longer about survival. This was about revenge. As the humans boarded the Valkyrie, Reyes sent one last signal out into the stars. "To all who hear me, humanity is not finished. We are awake, and we are coming." Far across the galaxy, hidden rebel leaders, human and alien alike, received the message. They looked to the stars with new hope. The old enemy of the Tyrant Kings had returned, and soon the whole galaxy would burn with rebellion. The engines of the Valkyrie roared to life. Commander Reyes stood at the front of the ship, his hands gripping the controls. Behind him, almost 200 humans crowded inside. Soldiers, engineers, medics, all barely awake but ready for battle. The Dawnbringer, their ancient home, shook as enemy fire rained down on it. Outside the hangar doors, the Deathclaw fleet grew larger by the minute. The sky was filled with black ships, shining under the cold stars. There was no way to win a direct fight. They had to run. They had to survive. And one day, they would strike back. "Everyone hold tight," Ray shouted. The Valkyrie lifted off, shaking as it tore free from the dying ship. As they flew out of the hangar, the first Deathclaw fighters spotted them. Plasma bolts shot through space, bright like falling stars. Reyes dodged left and right, pushing the old gunship to its limits. Cole manned the rear cannons, firing back with deadly aim. She brought down 2 enemy ships within seconds, but more kept coming. "Shields down to 40%, yelled a young engineer from the back. Reyes clenched his teeth. "We won't make it at this speed. We need a jump." Cole glanced at him. "The hyperdrive's offline." "Not for long," Reyes said, slamming a fist onto the emergency power panel. The ship's AI, old and broken, flickered to life. "Hyperdrive, unstable. Risk, 87% destruction." "Do it anyway," Reyes barked. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the walls. The humans inside held onto anything they could grab. A soft hum grew into a loud roar as the hyperdrive charged. Outside, Deathclaw ships closed in like vultures. Just as the first enemy boarding hooks fired toward them, the Valkyrie vanished into the stars. They reappeared in a forgotten part of space. No planets, no stations, just empty blackness and a few cold stars. The ship was silent except for the heavy breathing of the crew. Ray slumped back in his chair, heart pounding. They had escaped. For now. But the war was only beginning. The humans set up a temporary camp inside the Valkyrie. Small fires were lit in the cargo hold. Medical teams treated the wounded. Engineers crawled into the walls, trying to fix the ship's failing systems. Reyes walked through the camp, looking at the tired faces around him. They were survivors, not an army. But they would become one. They had to. Later, inside a small briefing room, Reyes gathered his top people, Cole, a few officers, and 2 engineers. "We can't run forever," he said. "We need allies." Cole nodded. "Humans are still out there. We heard their voices. Some are hiding. Some are enslaved." Reyes pointed at a star map projected onto the cracked wall. "There are human colonies here, here, and here," he said, marking 3 locations. "The Death Claws will hunt us," one officer said. Reyes smiled coldly. "Good. Let them. We'll hit them where it hurts." Their first target was the slave world Delta Prime, once a human colony, now a mining planet controlled by the Tyrant Kings. Billions of humans lived there under brutal rule, working in deep mines for alien masters. If they could free Delta Prime, it would be a spark the whole galaxy could see. A real rebellion. 2 days later, the Valkyrie dropped out of warp near Delta Prime. The planet below looked dead, gray, cold, covered in scars from centuries of mining. Orbiting it were Deathclaw patrol ships, small but deadly. Reyes gathered his team in the cargo bay. "This isn't just about us anymore," he said, voice steady. "Every human out there is counting on us. We hit fast. We hit hard. We free as many as we can. And we show the galaxy," Cole added, her voice sharp, "that humanity fights back." The soldiers cheered, not loudly, but with grim, determined smiles. They were not afraid anymore. They were warriors again. At midnight local time, the Valkyrie slipped through the thin clouds, hidden from sensors by an old human stealth system still barely working. They landed near a mining complex guarded by Death Claws. Reyes and his team moved in the dark, silent like ghosts. They used old tactics: sabotage, distraction, ambush. Plasma charges blew open prison gates. Hundreds of human slaves poured out, confused but full of sudden hope. The Deathclaw guards roared in anger, but Reyes and his fighters were ready. A fierce battle erupted in the dusty streets. Plasma fire lit up the night. Explosions rocked the ground. Reyes fought at the front, side by side with Cole. Every step forward was paid in blood. Every fallen enemy was a step closer to freedom. By dawn, Delta Prime was burning. The Deathclaw forces retreated into the mountains, broken and bleeding. The humans, miners, workers, old and young, stood free for the first time in centuries. They cheered. They cried. They picked up weapons from the fallen and raised them high. The rebellion had begun. Standing on a broken tower, Reyes looked over the burning city. Cole came to stand beside him. "One planet," she said. "Thousands more to go." Reyes nodded. "This is the war we were born for," he said. "And we're just getting started." Far away, deep inside the throne world of the Tyrant Kings, the High Lords received the news. A human uprising. A successful attack. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Tyrant Kings felt a shiver of fear. The humans had returned. And they were unstoppable. The news of Delta Prime's freedom spread like fire across the galaxy. Human colonies that once hid in fear now raised their banners. Rebel groups that had given up hope now gathered weapons. Even some alien races, tired of the Tyrant King's rule, whispered about joining the humans. Commander Reyes sat in the Valkyrie's control room, staring at a map filled with new signals, new allies. The rebellion had begun, and there was no turning back. Reyes called a meeting with his leaders, Cole, several new rebel commanders, and even an alien named Varkesh, a giant warrior who had once served the Tyrant Kings, sat around the old metal table. Reyes pointed to the heart of the map. The Throne World, he said. Their capital. Their power. Everyone fell silent. It was madness to think about attacking it. It was suicide. But Reyes knew the truth. If they didn't strike now, the Tyrant Kings would rebuild. They would crush the rebellion before it grew stronger. We hit them, Reyes said. One final blow. Cole nodded without hesitation. If we fall, she said, we fall fighting. The others agreed. The final battle was coming. For weeks, fleets were gathered. Old human warships were pulled from secret bases. New weapons were built in hidden factories. Messages of hope were sent to every corner of space. Humans from 1,000 worlds answered the call. They came in rusty ships, broken fighters, cargo haulers with guns taped to them. It didn't matter. They came with fire in their hearts. The day arrived. The largest human fleet seen in 500 years gathered near the edge of the Throne World system. Commander Reyes stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, looking at the army he had helped awaken. Cole stood beside him, dressed in old Earth armor, a rifle slung over her shoulder. The humans were tired. They were outnumbered. They were flying scrap ships held together with hope and anger. But they were ready. Reyes opened the fleet-wide channel. He spoke simple words. This is for Earth. This is for every world we lost. This is for the future we will take back with our own hands. The fleet roared in answer. And they charged. The battle was a storm of fire. Human ships clashed with Deathclaw fighters. Massive Tyrant King warships opened fire with weapons that could destroy cities. The Valkyrie flew fast through the chaos, weaving between burning ships and falling wreckage. Cole commanded the gun crews. Plasma bolts and missiles tore into enemy lines. Reyes steered toward the Throne World itself, a black planet surrounded by rings of steel and death. He had one goal: land on the surface. And the war. The Valkyrie took heavy hits. Alarms screamed. Fires broke out. One engine exploded, spinning the ship out of control. "We're not going to make it," shouted the engineer. Reyes gritted his teeth. "Hold on." With a scream of tortured metal, the Valkyrie smashed through the last defense ring. It fell from the sky like a comet, burning. Somehow Reyes kept control. Barely. The Valkyrie slammed into the Throne World's surface, skidding across the ground. It came to a halt near the Black Palace of the Tyrant Kings. Smoke filled the air. The ground shook. But Reyes and his team were alive, and they had come for war. The humans stormed the palace. Hundreds of Deathclaws tried to stop them, but they were tired, broken from the long war. The humans fought like demons, every step forward fueled by rage, by loss, by hope. Reyes led the charge through the shattered gates. Cole fought beside him, fearless. At the heart of the palace, the High Lords of the Tyrant Kings waited. Ancient, powerful, cruel, but even they, in their black armor, felt fear now. Reyes raised his rifle. "For Earth," he roared. The final battle began. The fight was brutal. The High Lords unleashed terrible weapons, but the humans didn't stop. One by one, the High Lords fell, cut down by the fury of the species they had tried to erase. When the last Tyrant King fell, the palace shook with explosions. Outside, the human fleet had broken the enemy armada. Victory was theirs. Commander Reyes stood at the broken throne. He looked around at his people, bloodied, battered, but standing tall. They had done the impossible. They had taken back their future. Cole walked up beside him, smiling through blood and dust. "It's over," she said. Reyes shook his head. "No," he said. "It's just the beginning." Across the stars, new banners were raised. Human banners, not of fear, not of slavery, but of freedom. The galaxy would remember this day forever. The day humanity rose from the ashes. The day the stars belonged to them once more. The day of the final dawn.